Hello, and thanks for stopping by. Today I'm in Leighton Buzzard, a pleasant market town located in Bedfordshire, roughly 40 miles north of central London. There's been a settlement here since around the 6th century, although there's some confusion as to how the unusual name came about. It would seem Leighton derives from the Old English term Leighton, meaning clearing in the woods, whilst Buzzard, which was added by the Dean of Lincoln in the 12th century, is possibly a corruption of Beau Desert, meaning beautiful wilderness. Leighton Buzzard is well connected by train. The town station first opened in Linslade way back in 1838, during the earliest days of the London to Birmingham Railway. And there's some compelling history a little further down the line too, for it was at this spot, between Leighton Buzzard and Cheddington, during the early hours of the 8th of August 1963, that the Great Train Robbery took place. That audacious heist is a story for another video, but for today we're still here to explore an intriguing piece of railway history, that being the Leighton Buzzard Railway, a 2-foot gauge light railway which trundles through the town and out into the countryside, carrying passengers in small carriages hauled by both steam and diesel locomotives. And I have to say, it's absolutely wonderful. There used to be many such light railways operating in Britain, which were privately built to serve various industries, such as factories, mines, and large engineering projects. Over time though, a decline in manufacturing, coupled with a shift to road transportation, saw the end of these little lines, and today, the Leighton Buzzard Railway is one of the only surviving examples. Fortunately, the line, which runs for just under 3 miles, is very much in business, and is open for rides between March and November, along with special Christmas services every December. What I'd like to do now then, is to take a trip on the Leighton Buzzard Railway with you, and as we go along, we'll delve deeper into both the history of this quirky line and the places through which it runs. The route begins at Pages Park Station in the southeastern corner of Leighton Buzzard, where the railway's friendly volunteers will happily show you around the engine shed. The steam locomotive that will be taking us today is named Gertrude. She was built in Kilmarnock in 1918. The Leighton Buzzard Railway owes its existence to sand. You see, the town and surrounding countryside sit upon vast quantities of the stuff, and as such, sand is a commodity which has been quarried here for many years. Initially, the quarries were sited towards the west of Leighton Buzzard, close to the mainline railway and the Grand Union Canal, which of course were ideal for helping to transport it. The eastern side of the town, however, lacked such links, meaning quarrying here wasn't so profitable. This quickly changed in World War I though, when demand for sand soared, the material being required for many aspects of manufacture, and so new quarries began to spring up around here. Throughout the First World War, sand quarried on the eastern side of Leighton Buzzard was transported by road, namely horse and carts and steam-powered lorries, to railway sidings near Pages Park, sidings once linked to a now lost branch line which ran between Leighton Buzzard Station and Dunstable. Carrying regular, heavy loads in this manner though caused considerable damage to the roads, and although this was tolerated during wartime, the area's 2 quarry owners, Joseph Arnold and Son and Garside and Harris, were told that, once the conflict was over, they'd be responsible for repairing any such damage. It was for this reason then that the Leighton Buzzard Light Railway, as it was officially known, was conceived, its purpose being to take pressure off of the roads. Construction was swift. Permission was granted in May 1919, and by the end of that year, the line was complete, thanks in large part to surplus equipment brought back from France, materials formerly used on military railways that had moved troops to and from the front line. In fact, this carriage, seen here in the Pages Park depot, began life as a World War I troop transporter, although it's been significantly modified for comfort since then. In its early days, the little railway puffed through what was then mostly open countryside. In the ensuing decades though, Leighton Buzzard has become a lot more built up, meaning the line now runs past many streets, houses and alleyways. This row of houses, which trains run behind on Western Avenue, was originally built to accommodate RAF personnel who served at the former RAF Stanbridge, once located on the opposite side of the track. Although small, RAF Stanbridge, or RAF Leighton Buzzard as it was first known, played a key role in World War II, as it was a major communications hub, handling, amongst many other things, the top secret messages coming out of nearby Bletchley Park, home to Alan Turing and the Codebreakers. After crossing Stanbridge Road, the route heads down Marley's Bank, which, with a 1 in 25 gradient, happens to be one of the steepest passenger lines in the UK. As you can imagine, hauling heavy sand wagons up such a slope was hard work for the little steam engines, and it was for this reason, in 1921, that the Leighton Buzzard Light Railway switched to using diesel locomotives instead, making it one of the first railways in Britain to completely do away with steam traction. After Stanbridge Road, the next major crossing is Hockliffe Road, which in September 1920 was the site of a bizarre accident when Lieutenant Algernon Reed crashed into a train whilst riding his motorcycle. In doing so, he was thrown over the handlebars and catapulted into the locomotive's cab, where he landed in the driver's lap. Fortunately, Algernon wasn't badly injured, although when interviewed, he stated that, in spite of several exciting aeroplane crashes whilst in the Air Force, it was one of the closest calls he'd experienced. The heyday of the Leighton Buzzard Light Railway was in the 1940s and 50s, when it carried up to 20 trainloads of sand per day, something that's difficult to imagine now, considering how relaxed the line is in its current incarnation. Once dumper trucks and more efficient road transport began to muscle in though, the Leighton Buzzard Railway was gradually wound down from the late 1960s onwards, with the last working quarry section finally closing in June 1981. In 1967 though, a group of volunteers, led by Brian Harris and Laurie Brooks, gained permission to start using part of the line to carry passengers in trains hauled by preserved locomotives. At first, the setup was very basic, with passengers having to stand in open wagons. Unusually, because heritage services began whilst parts of the line were still in industrial use, the Leighton Buzzard Railway is a rare example of a line which entered preservation without having first been abandoned. In its earliest days, no doubt in an attempt to attract visitors, Brian and Laurie dubbed their venture the Iron Horse Railroad, with services being modelled around a Wild West theme. This gimmick was soon dropped, which was probably for the best, and the line was renamed the Leighton Buzzard Railway in 1970, with a view to preserving the route as it had first opened in 1919. Although the odd Wild West day was still held, such as the one pictured here in the summer of 1993. By the way, speaking of America, one of the most famous people to have enjoyed the trip on the Leighton Buzzard Railway is none other than the US actor John Travolta, who paid a visit with his son Ben in 2013. Once beyond Van Dyke Road, the railway chugs out into more open countryside, passing beneath this brand new bridge, for which the line had to be slightly rerouted. It then runs towards Monday's Hill, the end of the line, before travelling back to Stonehenge Works, where passengers can get out to have a look around. Stonehenge Works used to be the site of a brickworks, and today it forms a large yard and workshop for the Leighton Buzzard Railway. The main building you can see here was built towards the end of World War I, initially for the horses and ponies who worked at the site. The stables were constructed by prisoners of war, and it's believed this cartoon face in the stonework was created by one of them as a cheeky addition. There used to be a tall chimney here too, although that was toppled in June 1985 by the legendary steeplejack Fred Dibnah. If you've ever seen one of the late great Fred Dibnah's documentaries, then you'll know he was passionate about industrial history. He would have no doubt loved the Leighton Buzzard Railway in its current guise then, for as well as offering rides to the public, it also boasts one of Britain's largest collections of narrow gauge rolling stock. At the Stonehenge Works, for example, you can see this locomotive, built in 1939, which rather unusually carried firefighting equipment around an RAF ammunition depot. This steam locomotive, which was built in Munich for the German army in 1918, and this more modern vehicle, named Peter Wood, which was used during construction of the Jubilee Line extension in the 1990s. There are plenty more examples too, some of which are back at Pages Park. Speaking of which, it's now time to travel back to. Enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look at the Leighton Buzzard Railway, and as always, I'd love to hear your own thoughts. Is it an attraction you visited yourself? And what other similar railways, both in Britain and elsewhere, would you recommend? Please be sure to let me know in the comments. If you haven't yet subscribed to Robslondon, then I'd appreciate it very much if you could please consider doing so, as this, along with clicking the bell icon to receive notifications, will ensure that you don't miss out whenever I publish a new video. Plus, of course, it'd be wonderful to have you along. If you're feeling extra generous, you can also support my work with a tip via either my Ko-fi account, which I'll link below, or the YouTube thanks button, which appears as a heart icon beneath the video. Any such financial donations are of course greatly appreciated, and they really do help go towards creating content. Anyway, on that note, thanks again for watching friends. Stay well and please be sure to stay tuned.